Greetings, I'm Alex on Orbit, and we're gonna build a city together. Get ready! We decided to choose River Run as our map, and we're gonna go ahead and name it Gyuk Gyuk. I don't know why. It just sounds good. Deal with it. Gyuk Gyuk! I've never done River Run before, so this should be pretty interesting. It looks like we've got a nice river bisecting our first area here, plus a highway on the north and the south side. I think that'll be extremely useful to us later. Probably make traffic a whole lot easier to deal with, since we can easily get people in and out of our city. I initially thought about starting on the larger side of the river, but I thought it seemed that there was a little bit more industry available up north. I always like to start my builds something similar to this, mostly because it's a whole lot easier to build up your highway system later when you have some space to build your highway. And that's right about where we're going to put it, just sort of bisecting. We're going to go ahead and start with some residential over here on the left side. Just go ahead and fill this in. Not the most useful tool doing it this way, but I like to mix it up sometimes. Put a little bit of our first commercial along here, but we'll probably be moving this later. Just because I don't like having my commercial on the same roads to all of the industrial, which of course we'll put over there on the far right. Some dirty industry. I usually go with wind power, but I decided I'd mix it up a little bit and start out with a power plant of the coal variety. And another new for me is water towers. I've not used these before, but you know what? They seem like they're cheap and effective, so what the hell? Let's give it a shot. Putting in our water pipes. We need sewage, obviously, and put that right down river because we don't want any water polluting our city. Bam! That's how we do it. And of course, I should probably run power to that, but when I made the video, I must have forgot. Whoops. So we'll fast forward a little bit here, putting in power to the water tower, putting in a little bit more residential, filling that all in nicely. I always like to lower the budget for the roads since they seem to be way too expensive, and I always like to lower the power and the water as well until we start getting some population. Obviously, need to get some power to these people too. Whoops. And for some reason the recording started getting a little bit weird at this point. I do apologize for that. But really, we wait a little bit, let the city grow. Let our civilians come to town. And of course, we always need to put more water. I like to try to do these as efficiently as possible. You see here, I place a new pipe that takes up the space a little bit more effectively and remove that old one. And there we go. Looking pretty good. I usually don't like playing with the time dilation. I really like playing the game in real time because I spend a lot of time just looking at my city and designing in my head when I build, so you'll kind of see a lot of me just moving the camera around, not doing a lot. I promise these videos will get better. Let's fast forward a bit, shall we? We put in a little bit more residential. I always like to try to come up with some cool patterns when I'm doing this, so I decided to cut the edge off one of these and do the same with the other, make it a little symmetrical, and doesn't that look nice? We're gonna stick with that. Very, very nice. I like it. Alright, so now you're gonna see me putting in some power lines, getting the sewage system hooked into power, since apparently I forgot that earlier. As soon as that kicks in, all that sewage goes away. Drains into the water. The city continues to grow as I fill in some more residential. Running water up to this new residential area, of course, always important. making that pipe look a little bit better. City Skylines has sure become a beautiful game with the nighttime and the weather effects and really just everything that they've been adding in the most recent DLCs. City Skylines has very quickly become one of my most cherished games. I highly recommend anyone give it a try. You'll see me filling in quite a bit more residential and just trying to grow the city as much as I can. I keep repeating the same sort of pattern that I started in the residential sector just to keep a kind of uniform look in the city. I really like doing that. Just popped 400 population, which means we can start doing some really clever stuff like the elementary school and the medical clinic. And more importantly, we can start taxing our citizens and making some real money. I always like to add my first landfill as far away from everything else as possible. This becomes disadvantageous once our road systems get a little bit more elaborate, but we'll fix that later. We'll add our first medical clinic over here so people can stay healthy, and we're going to redo some of our power since this really is not going to be sustainable for long. We've got to make this look much better and work a lot better too. But we're going to basically repeat what we've built on the north side of this road and just really ramp up how many people can live in the city pretty quickly. Fill all this in with residential. Fix our power lines a bit so that everybody can move in. And finally get that landfill placed somewhere that it won't be a nuisance. Who says nuisance anymore? At this point, I'm looking to see what we could do about damming this river. It should be very interesting. It doesn't look like there's a lot of bank for the river to back up behind before spilling over, but we'll address that more later. We're also going to redo some of our power lines, add a little bit more commercial, and our city is really starting to pick up the pace of growth at this point. We're in the green everywhere. We've got good demand everywhere. And we just popped 800 population. Setting up our districts and policies. We're not going to do too much with this right now. That will come later. We're already running out of power, so I decided to use a little bit of wind just to augment things until we can do something else anyway. I really feel bad about building more coal plants just because the pollution starts getting out of hand in a hurry. We're also going to add our first fire station. I usually keep the first one pretty near the industrial sector because that ends up catching on fire a lot. And we finally have access to 4-lane roads, which always makes me happy. Traffic is definitely one of the more difficult aspects of cities to navigate around. But we're also going to add some more power. Now we're going to develop our next commercial area. We're just going to mimic the same pattern as before, again, just to give that nice uniform look to our city. And we'll just keep developing this commercial area, adding in some more residential, taking a look at everything. And down here in the lower left, I think we're going to be doing a lot of oil extraction. It looks like this is going to be a great spot to make some money, and of course also help us pay for the cost of electricity in our city. But before we get to that, we have a lot of work to do, including running water, finishing our roads, getting the sewage figured out again, adding some more industrial, adjusting our budget again, and I continue to plan our glorious little city here. I really don't like taking out loans. I think that it really slows down the progress. You kind of wait a little bit longer in the early game, but I think it really pays off later, especially if you get into a tight spot and you can buy one of those loans if you really need to. Redoing a lot of our power again, just because it's horrible otherwise, and adding a whole bunch more residential, because look at that RSI. It is indicating that our city is ready to grow, but it looks like we're having some water problems. I disconnected the water piping, added in another pipe to another tower, and we're on our way. to adding a whole bunch more residential to our city, which is looking gorgeous. The game, with its atmospheric effects, is truly beautiful. I like adding a lot of paths and parks in my cities. I really like letting my civilians walk and use transportation other than vehicles. It's just a nice little addition, and of course it just makes your city look so much nicer, especially at night. Our industrial sector looks like it needs to grow a bit, so we'll add in a bit more zoning there, and now we're gonna do some beautification. I really like adding a lot of parks, and then I also like to make my parks a little bit more elaborate than the base tiles, so we're gonna add in a whole lot of pathing and walkways, again, just to really make the city look nicer. I find that this just adds so much to the city and enjoyment of the process of building these cities. So again, I really encourage everybody to spend some time doing stuff like this. It really makes your city special. It also helps alleviate a lot of traffic problems, especially if people can just walk from your residential right into one of your main commercial areas. They'll tend to do that. Of course, decorating these things helps a lot as well. Popping in all these nice trees. And there we go. Obviously, we have some water problems in our industrial. We need some more residential. And we really need to amp up our happiness. But it turns out I didn't leave enough room for our parks up there, so we're just going to have to redo all of this. I hate doing this, but sometimes you kind of have to, especially if you want to make sure your city is looking good, which, why wouldn't you? It's the point of the game, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, look at this. Here we go. Popping in some more of these parks and pathing. Obviously, we're having some power problems that we need to do adjust there real quick, but you can kind of get an idea as to what this looks like at night with all the lights. It just really is wonderful. That's really about it for this video. We'll be adding more to this and continuing to develop Gyuk Gyuk. I thank you all very much for watching, and hopefully you'll join me again in our wonderful little city. I'm Alex on Orbit. Thank you again, and goodbye.